What is the double self? What is it? To begin to understand what the double self is, you first have to have a look at what your understanding of consciousness is. Well, what's that, Heidi? What is consciousness? It's a word that you've heard bounded around in all areas spiritual and certainly within aspects of self-development. But what does it actually mean? What does the word consciousness actually mean? What it actually means is really about the question of your reality. How is it created? So as an example, is psychic ability real? Is it something that's actually real or part of some person's vivid imagination? Is intuition or woo-woo? Is it something that doesn't really exist and it's all, again, in the mind of someone's imagination? How do we really know what's in the subconscious, as an example, or what's unconscious to become conscious? How do we know? How do we know what we're accessing, and how do we know if it can be incredibly useful? Well, to give you an idea of what consciousness actually is and what it relates to, it can be viewed from two different perspectives. Now, this is just two that I'm giving you as an example in this particular video, okay? So, number one, it can be viewed, so consciousness, or whatever it is, this example of consciousness is, it can be viewed through the eyes that everything, okay, everything that you experience in life is generated by grey matter, this thing in your head called your brain. Okay, so you could say that everything in terms of your life experience is created by your brain. Okay, that would be an aspect of consciousness. So this is what is called, as an example, the materialist or the reductionist perspective. Both of those perspectives, you may have heard those terms. Materialist doesn't mean that someone being materialistic and wanting things. It actually means that it's a belief system that everything is created from matter. Okay, so from something solid, something has to be solid and real in order for it to be believed. So that's what the materialist perspective is. So materialists and reductionists would say that all of the mechanisms behind life can be explained by reducing it down to something physical, so something biological or some kind of biological function. Okay, so all of our consciousness from this perspective says that everything that we experience as our reality, in our internal world and our external world, is all generated by the brain. Okay, so materialists and reductionists pretty much believe that consciousness, so all of you, dies as the brain does. Okay, so once the brain's dead, everything's dead. Nothing exists beyond the brain. These are the people that really probably you spend your life trying to convince as an intuitive sensitive person, or you spend your life trying not to talk to because they don't share a similar perspective in life as you do, or that view of desiring or wanting some kind of expansion or an idea as to how does life really work. Or there's option number two in terms of a reference point for consciousness. Number two is that everything that we experience, okay, so consciousness, both internal and what we see out through our eyes, exists outside of the brain, okay? And the brain, so this thing inside our head, is merely an interpreter of that information. Okay, so it's the belief system that consciousness exists outside of our physical brain, and all our brain does is interpret that information and feed it back to us in terms of what we then experience or example as our idea of reality. Okay, so our consciousness. So this theory says that the brain very much is used as that mechanism. Okay, so it's used as a mechanism for the expression of consciousness rather than it creates it. So you could say, as an example, self-expression is part of that. When we describe what our self-expression is, maybe that's what we're actually referring to, is our expression of consciousness. So if this is to be true, as in the second version, it means that the universe is a pulsating consciousness, alive with expression. Quantum physics is beginning to tap in to that as a scientific perspective on how consciousness and the world really works. So, what if there are multiple aspects of you, okay? So multiple aspects of you with their own consciousness, okay? Their own sense of self-expression, their own consciousness, their own expression that is currently pretty much unconscious. You don't know about it. You don't really know about that part of you. What if you called that expression the double self? Okay, what if you called it the double self? And you could utilize that so that you could solve issues in your life such as fear, self-doubt, or use it as an aspect of unlimited confidence. Useful? Do you find that useful? Do you think, yeah, actually, that could be really quite useful. Perhaps I'd like one of those double selves. Well, that's what you're going to learn about, okay, on the free masterclass. All of that as to how that operates. It's not from the world of mumbo jumbo. It's not from the world of make-believe. It is a viewpoint of how consciousness works, okay? And you're going to learn about that on this upcoming masterclass, Expanding Consciousness, the guiding influence of the double self and how it relates to quantum physics. Don't worry, it's not going to be something that's way over your head and complicated. It's not going to be that at all, okay? I look forward to seeing you for the masterclass. Bye for now.